Hey there, YouTube. Anyway, getting right to the point. This Eonon that I had purchased through Eonon.com out of Hong Kong, shipped directly to a plant based in Avenel, New Jersey, which only took me a day to get after the money cleared and everything. Well, anyway, I'm going to give you a simple review. My review of the system is, it's not bad. It's definitely a step up from the standard system that comes in this car. This comes with the Premium 8 system without the navigation. However, I've upped everything in here. I got 6.5-inch door speakers that are voice speakers. I got these bullet tweeters that are right there on both sides of the center console. Now, they produce a dynamic range from the center console that gives me a different type of sound instead of having the tweeters in the pillars or drilling holes in other places. So this seemed like the best possible place. Well, that's where I put them. The other part of it is that there is a 3,000 watt 4-channel amp. Actually, it's a 5, but I call it a 4 because I'm not using the 5th channel. I have a monoblock. It drives a 12-inch 1,300 watt speaker. It's a 1,000 watt. It's more than enough for that particular subwoofer. Now, in order to get into the system itself, it doesn't really lag. The startup could be a little faster from initial boot when the car is cold, and then, you know, from there it immediately comes back on. It's cool, not a bad deal. However, the original system outbeats that because it doesn't have as much stuff or processes in the background to load. Now, for this particular unit, it supports a lot of different things. The CAN bus that's included with it, the Wi-Fi, the GPS. Now, the GPS does not work unless you use an offline map service, which means that you have to go through Google Play and you have to do it that way. There are a whole bunch of things that you can do with this. It has potential because it is basically operating off of 8.0, and it's running off of a PX5 platform. Now, the PX5 platform, I looked into it. It's basically tied into some kind of tablet. As anybody who might know anything about these things, is that basically what it does is it's using a ROM from another platform, and they integrated it to work with this head unit. They added their own tuner. They added a whole bunch of different things. However, the expandability of this thing is not bad. I mean, it is 32 gigs of onboard storage. It's capable of taking a 64 gig card, an 8 gig GPS card, and it's got 3 USBs. It's got multiple camera inputs. You know, it can do a lot of different things. However, the bottom line on this is that it's not bad. I mean, you're getting what you're paying for. I mean, the sound itself, I think they're using a Boss audio chip. However, if you have your own external source to amp this sound, 90% of your sound is coming from your amp. You could use your different high and low frequencies to peak however you want to peak. Basically, the system in factory mode, in order to get into it, you have to go in through this way. Okay? I'm going to show you so you know. Because a lot of people, they're not very descriptive. You have to go through your home function, and then you have to go into your settings. From your settings, you'll go all the way down until you see for car. Right there. See that? That's what you hit. You hit car, and then you go all the way to the bottom of the page. And it says factory settings. At factory settings, you go in there. I'm not going to put this in, but you would go and tap that, just like you would on your phone. You go to the numerical portion of it, and you push 1, 2, 6. The other codes that are on there do not work for this system, because I think Enjoy uses the same setup. So it's basically a copycat of that system, but with Eon's tweaks to it. That's because they're basically running off of the same particular platform. All right? But they've made their own changes. Once you get into that, you can change your icon. You could change the rudder for the door. You could change the actual door, because a lot of people, when they open up their door on a first initial startup without actually going into the factory mode of this radio, see that indicator? That indicator will show the opposite side until you change it inside of the factory settings. Now, as long as you don't mess around too much inside there, you can't hurt the system. Even if you do, there is a hard reset. I mean, this little button right here, it's actually embedded underneath the plastic. You would have to use a paper clip or something that can push that, but don't push it too hard. I'm sure it's a tack switch, and if you push it too hard, you will damage it. I don't know what this is up here. This is probably for the microphone. No, actually, it's on this side. I'm sorry. I don't know what that is over there. However, that could possibly be as part of the hard reboot to get into the ROM itself, like you would on your phone. You know, you use a certain key, like on Samsung, you'd basically use the key up, the volume up, the power button, in order to get it to go in after you go into a restart mode. So, with that, you can go into developer mode the same way you would on your phone. Basically, this is a phone. It's a tablet. It's all of these things tied into one. However, I've found the problem for myself. I don't know if anybody else has, but on your CAN bus, okay, you're not going to use the power antenna wire that comes off there, off the back of the unit, to power your amp. You can't use that, because what that does is that leaves your amps on. I don't know why, I don't know how, but it does. It leaves your amps on when your car is running. When your car is off, of course, everything goes off. But I think in the standby mode that this thing goes into, even with the power off, it leaves your amps on. So what you basically have to do is you have to locate pin 1 on the back of the radio, which is the blue wire, which says at the CAN bus that it's the power amp. Now, I don't know if it's there intentionally for a system that has an amplifier built in, the Fender amplifier, and it triggers that. However, in order for you to successfully and properly trigger your amps without them being left on when you turn your radio off, you have to go through that blue wire, that power amp wire. If you don't go and splice into that, your amps are going to be on when your radio is off. Believe me, I know. I've tested it. I've looked at all different options. The other thing I don't like about it is the fact that you have to have an amplifier trigger that actually turns on the antenna that's up in the top of the car, that shark mount. Now, without that shark mount being turned on, you're going to get a very, very weak FM signal. Almost non-existent. It's going to fade in and out no matter where you move. Sometimes it might be real strong, sometimes it won't be. Alright, getting back, I know I'm bouncing all over the place, but getting back to the GPS portion. The GPS portion will work if you use your hotspot on your phone or you get a separate 4G or 3G dongle. You have to buy those things. Or you have to use your hotspot on your phone. Now keep in mind, I don't know how much it's going to use when you use your hotspot, but I'm pretty much unlimited because I go through Verizon, and of course I'm paying for it. So, but like I said, if you want to get more oomph out of your system, meaning more power through RCA connections, not the speaker connections, because I don't use those because I have amps that are on the car. However, if you want more juice out of this radio to actually make those amps slightly louder, without distortion, without overpowering them, you would go into your factory setting, push 126, and then it'll bring you to that icon page, which basically will allow you to change, like I said, a lot of different things. But you'll go into where it says for voice. That, I believe, is the 5th one over from the end. You would only adjust system. Do not adjust anything else in there, because if you do, you're going to get undesirable results. You're going to end up turning up the radio without actually turning this up, turning up the Bluetooth. You don't want to turn up a lot of different things. What you want is you want a gradual increase, which means that you want to increase the system, the overall system output. So when you do that, you would go, for me, what I found works for me, and because of my setup, I had to actually push this thing from 10, from the factory setting of 10, up to 15. Anything more than that, it's going to be distorted, because now you're overdriving your amps. You can back your amps down, but now you're losing your power. There's that fine line. I'm sure all of you who are experienced in putting these things together are familiar with this. It's very tricky, because if your amp is too loud and your volume coming out of your radio is not loud enough, the actual initial onboard volume, you're going to end up getting a lot of noise. You're going to get all kinds of noise. Now, what I've found is a lot of times with Volkswagen, Audi, a lot of German vehicles, they will introduce noise with aftermarket radios, because these aftermarket radios don't have the filters in them that the factory system has. Plus, they have things turned down, and they don't have things pushing. So they know that their car makes electrical noise. They know it. So if you push too much stuff, too much volume, what I've found is you can change your RCAs to balanced RCAs, but now you're spending money. Now you got to relocate stuff, and a lot of people, they just want to have a system that sounds decent, gives you what you're desiring without all that electrical noise. Now, what you're going to have to do is 9 times out of 10 on these cars, once you amp them, your grounds could be completely solid. Because I've noticed that when my car is off and my amps are running, because I thought my amp was creating the noise. It's not. It's the car. It's the car's ignition system that is actually creating it. But it also is attributed to, if my amp is all the way up and the system and the speakers, I don't know, maybe I need to research it a little more, but what I think it's causing is an electromagnetic field between the speakers being powered and at such a rate versus the electronics in the radio, the electronics in the dash, electronics in the car's computer. All of these different things, I'm sure, affect and cause an electromagnetic field, which basically, it's a sound field, and it causes feedback. Now, there are different ways that you could do it. You could put a whole bunch of filters on your system, but a lot of people, they don't want to do this. But, like I said, what worked for me is I put ground loop isolators on my amp inputs coming off of the RCA wires at the back, because if you do it at the front, behind the radio, it's not going to take care of your problem, because the noise is generated from the amp and the ignition system plus the speakers. It's a whole headache. I'm sure one day I will figure it out, but for now, I hope that I give you something to look at if, you're having the same ignition problem. But don't just buy any cheap ground loop isolator. You got to buy a decent one. Something that is pretty much designed for your particular amp. Maybe from the same amp company that you bought your amp from. Maybe they have the ground loop isolator, or try Metra. Metra seems to have decent ground loop isolators. A lot of the time is people who use inline connections from the back of their radio and then, do the RCA outs from their factory head units, they're going to get introduction of noise. It happens. Maybe not all the time, but it will happen over time. Plus, I'm sure because of the vibration, the thumping that's coming out of my sub, and the amount of power that's actually being pushed through this car, it might have loosened a ground somewhere inside the car. And most of those grounds are hidden under carpets, ground tap points, anywhere in the cabin of the vehicle. If any one of those becomes loose, or just slightly loose, you're going to have a problem, because now you're not solid. Everything else at your amp and your head unit and everything else could zero out on your ohm meter. However, somewhere you have a ground problem. So, like I said, to cap all this, I was hesitant on doing this, but you know what? It worked out. It's fully integrated. It gives me certain features that were hidden by the onboard display, because that onboard display using the Krista app, I can actually, it's Carista, I can actually change certain features through that OBD2. Now, they say use the OBD11. You don't need to spend that kind of money, because now you're spending credits and everything else. If you spend that $39 for the year, you're going to get what you're going to get. And it will work throughout the majority that support it. Volkswagens, Audis, those cars. German cars. I'm sure it works on BMW, but it will not work on anything other foreign. Won't work on Toyota. Won't work on any American vehicles. It's designed specifically. Carista is designed specifically for those particular brands. Volkswagen, Audi, BMWs, Volvos, but that's it. So that's why a lot of people say go after the OBD11. Yeah, the OBD11, it's VGA. It's not great. But I found the best results for what I wanted to do worked out perfectly. So, I'll give you an updated video on what I feel. But going back, one more thing. I know I'm all over the place, but I'm hoping that you can catch what I'm saying. It's a decent unit. It's well worth its money. At first, I was like, oh my God, this is a piece of crap. No, you got to get used to it. You really do. If you are an Android user, then you'll appreciate it. If you're an Apple user, forget it. Stay with Kenwood, Pioneer, someone else. But don't go after this if you're an Apple person, because you're not going to like it. You're going to be like, oh, this is stupid. It's doesn't work the way I want it to. Well, you know what? You get what you pay for. There's Android people. There's Apple people. There's Windows people. There's Linux people. It's all in what you want, what you're expecting. And that's why I went after this particular unit, because I am an Android person. I've played in the Apple field, but I don't like it. I really don't. So, like I say, the one problem that I don't like about this is my USB Kingston card, or actual stick. I plug it into any one of them USBs down there, and the problem is with the USB, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I don't think it's my USB, because I can use my USB in my other car, I can use it on my computer, and the actual flash drive doesn't have a problem on any of those other things. I think because this particular system, the software, the way it's set up, it's kind of funny. It's like the proprietary Sony's, where Sony doesn't like to play well with others. I think that might be part of it, what's going on here. But I found a workaround. What you can do without freaking out is you can take your USB, get yourself a 64 gig. You might as well go for the 64 gig. Put your USB, let your system see it, put your 64 gig card in your SD, and then paste everything from that USB that would be on your line to your SD card. And then your system will pick up whatever your music files are, your video files, it'll work. Now, for the video portion, the car will not play video. I mean, it does have idiot apps like the video. I'm sure that if I haven't tried it, but if you press it, I'm sure it'll pick up your video files. But what I like to use is these two, X-Player and VLC. Seem to be flawless when it comes to playing outside video sources and audio sources. It covers a wide range of formats. So you'll be happy with that. But like I said, again, I hope you enjoy the information. I know it's long-winded, and I'm just all over the place. But I'm hoping that what I gave you will help you. And remember, if you need to change anything in your factory settings on this radio to go beyond what they set up, because you're going to have to do it for your language, you're going to have to do it for your clock, you're going to have to do it for your radio, because everything is set up for China, Hong Kong. Basically, it's set up for them because that's where the radio originates. So wherever you are in the world, you're going to have to set up the radio for that, or it's just going to give you undesirable results. It's not going to give you extra channels. It's not going to give you anything hidden. It's just going to, it's not going to give you what you want. It's not going to give you the format that is currently set up in whatever country you're in. So, like I said, go into your factory settings and put 126, that's 126, in the passcode to get in there and change whatever you want to change. Like I said, you really can't hurt this thing. I mean, you can download a bad app, and I'm sure it could make your system sick, and then you end up having to put a factory reboot, ROM back into it, and that's just a headache and a half. But these things are pretty much fail-safe. The company has put a lot of effort into their thought, their design, how they set it up. I'm not speaking for them because I don't get any money from them. However, like I said, I like it. I was hesitant on whether or not I was going to buy this thing, but I bought it, and it worked out. So, I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, it's long-winded. I apologize for that, but I try to give as much possible information when I do a review so that people of all walks can understand it. Because sometimes people, they speak in different languages, German, the Netherlands, Spanish, and I'm not taking anything away from them. No one. But a lot of people will not do reviews on a lot of different things in English. So when you go on the internet and you're looking for some kind of help, you're like, oh my God, what do? I can't understand a word this person's saying. Or they're moving their fingers around the screen too fast and they're not showing you what they're actually doing. It's disappointing. So I hope, like I showed, you have a wide range of things that you could do with this. If you're patient, you'll be fine. But don't expect the kitchen sink and it to cook meals for you, because it's not going to do that. All right? Have a great day. Enjoy. And I hope it was helpful. Take care. Until next time.